of June 2020. And just before I get going, if everybody could just mute their mics and turn off the cameras as we have been doing in previous meetings. Okay, so before I move on to apologies, I'm sure everyone knows by now that Kevin is leaving us. He's leaving me in the lurch anyway. He's retiring this month, and it's amazing that my first meeting's his last, and I don't know what I'm going to do. But in all seriousness, no, I would just like to personally thank Kevin. I know I speak for everybody. Thank Kevin for all his help and support, even since I became a councillor. I know I speak for everyone in that. So he'll be greatly missed, and we wish Kevin all the best in his retirement. As for councillors, I'm sure you want to make your own statements. I'll take all them at any other business at the end, so we'll just crack on with the meeting. So first of all, apologies, and the way it's been done at previous meetings, I will go to the group leaders. So start off with Councillor McElduff. Any apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. All right. And I'll move on now to Councillor Garrity. Any apologies?
No apologies, Chair, and best of luck tonight, Kevin.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you. And move on now to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. I wish you all the best for this evening and in the year ahead. And we have no apologies from the Democratic Unionist Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And move on to Councillor Warrington, please.
Thanks, Garvin. Well, all the best for tonight and for the year ahead. And as far as I know, there is no apologies from the Ulster Unionist Party. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And is there any other apologies from independents and whatnot?
Hello, Garvin, and wishing you good luck in your new position. Very well done. And just to say that all the independents would send in their own apologies independently anyway, but I haven't any messages.
Thanks very much for that, Bernice.
This is Josephine Dayton here, just to wish you all the best as chairman of this important committee in the upcoming year.
Thanks very much, Josephine. Thank you.
Chair, maybe just to note,
Stephen, just asking to see if you can hear me okay.
Sorry, Stephen. I'll let Alison and then they'll bring you in, Stephen. Okay.
No, Chair, it was just to say I don't see Councillor Keenan, so I think that's the only member who doesn't appear to be in attendance based on the registered members, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay. Bring in Councillor McCann now, please.
Sorry, Chair, just testing to see if you can hear me okay there.
Yeah, hear you loud and clear, Stephen. Thank you. Okay, so move on to point 2 in the agenda, to sign minutes and confidential minutes of previous meeting held on 4th of March 2020. Okay, that's that done. And now point 3. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kelly, please.
Yeah, could you confirm that you can hear me, that my mic's working?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, point 3, if any declarations of interest? Not seeing anybody indicating, so that means there's no... Oh, Councillor Warrington? Councillor Warrington, are you looking in for declarations of interest?
I forgot to unmute myself. Just to let us know, no declaration, but just Councillor Rainey doesn't seem to be on board yet, so I'm not sure. I didn't hear anything from him today.
Okay, that's noted. Thank you. Okay, no declarations, so we'll move on now to...
Chair.
Sorry, is that Councillor Wilson?
I'm not sure where, but there's a to do with if I would declare an interest in that somewhere in the procedure.
No problem, Councillor Wilson, that's noted. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to matters arising from that meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of March 2020. So for matters arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, Councillor O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I had something on page 1, on page 2 and 3, but on page 2, just a query under item 4.1, ancient graveyards. It does say there that the member commented, to the best of his knowledge, all human remains had been removed. Subsequently, I did have a meeting with the director and outgoing director, and he told me that they were the council was completely unaware that there was a cemetery on the site, but that after the information that I brought forward, they were now aware of that, and that there was some consideration he would pass on to a future director who would take on the responsibilities for marking the cemetery that was on the old site, on the old hospital site. So I'm wondering, is there an update on that in page 2? There is a matter on page 3, but this is page 2.
Okay, bring Kevin in there. Kevin, sorry. That's you now, Kevin.
Update, but certainly we will try to get with regards to marking that report to a future committee meeting. Happy with that?
Is that okay, Councillor O'Coffey?
To bring it forward to a future meeting, it's very muted, to be honest with you, but I think I could make that out, thanks. And I'm okay in that.
And did you also have something on page 3, Councillor O'Coffey?
Indeed, I did. Thank you, Chair. Page 3, the issue of fly tipping is under 4.6, and I do note that there's an item to come up on report. Yeah. Is that going to be given here?
Yeah, that's 4.6 is coming up. Yeah, so I just see Councillor McAleer's looking in.
So yeah, it was the correspondence received under item 4.6. So happy to wait until Councillor Coffey speaks.
Yeah, we'll be coming to that now. So Kevin, if you want to take.
With regards to item 4.6, basically this is correspondence received back from the Minister with regards to fly tipping protocol. There was a previous report brought to members, and it was very much along the lines of section Articles 4 and 5 of the Waste and Contaminated Land Order 2011, which was basically the NAE had powers to carry out certain activities, and the fly tipping protocol gave powers to the council to take certain actions. The respondents basically is indicating that the Minister is mindful to bring Articles 4 and 5 and to act in not too distant future. At the previous meeting with members, it indicated that there was a great deal of concern spread equally across all of the councils that Article 4 and 5 was placing was transferring very much a major responsibility over to the council without the resources. There had previously been a meeting in Belfast with the department and the 11 councils, and it was made clear that there was grave concerns that there needed to be, if this function was to be transferred to council, that there needed to be the appropriate resources transferred with that. There is no indication in the correspondence that there's any plan to transfer resources. At the meeting in Belfast, we had made consultation with the department to the number of staff they had currently working on Articles 4 and 5, and it was in the region of 30 staff, with no proposal to transfer any of those staff over to the councils to take on that very onerous act. Just as a matter of background, fly tipping protocol basically tried to set out a clear delineation between the department's function and the council's function, and that is going back a very long time, and the bottom line was that 20 tons was a cut-off point. Anything below that was the responsibility of the council. Anything in excess of that was the responsibility of the department, and any hazardous waste was the responsibility of the department. This document or this correspondence seems to indicate that the department are trying to improve clarity. I would have grave concerns that it is, in fact, it is muddying the issue in that it seems to be giving the same powers to both organisations, with the council receiving no appropriate resources to deal with it, and certainly it is felt that is not advantageous or beneficial to the councils. What was agreed at the Belfast meeting in the City Hall in Belfast was that the department would set up a team along with a panel from a selection panel from all of the 11 councils on the waste director level, and that they would try to iron out the issues and deal with these issues prior to this matter being further brought forward. So slightly disappointed that it is coming in this format, and because to the best of my knowledge there hasn't been any subsequent meetings with the department to iron out the difficulties and the cost implications, and the fact that we feel that this will be a retrograde step and potentially would be making a complex issue even more difficult. So, Chairman, I think we should be asking that the matter be that the original proposal of a working group to deal with that should be allowed to report on it before any further action would be taken on it, Chairman.
Okay, Kevin, thanks for that. Just before I bring anybody else in, can everybody hear Kevin now to sound better?
Yes.
Chairman, my little microphone was sitting on top of my head. Would sitting help?
Yes.
That's great. That's great. I know that Councillor O'Coffey and Councillor McAdee are going, but I'm going to take Councillor Kelly Pottergeen first, please.
Thanks, Garvin, and good luck in your role. I suppose Kevin's right in saying that it's not viable, and fly tipping is a major issue in our district, and none more so than in my own area of Mid Tyrone. Recently, I've had reports of fly tipping in Greencastle, Lochmacrory, Drumnakelly, and Carrickmore. It's disappointing, but thankfully local groups organise litter picks, which work really well. I propose that we write to the Dear Minister to request an advertising campaign around leaving no trace, as people are travelling to more areas to admire them. It is dangerous for wildlife, humans, and especially during this pandemic. This is a drain on resources which are already limited, and something that I feel might work well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kelly. That's a proposal on the table. I'll move. Does Councillor O'Coffey want to come in this before I move on to everyone else?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this response is hugely concerning, I would have thought, from a council perspective. There's absolutely nothing here in terms of additional funding to take on what is an additional responsibility. I would ask if there's for further clarification, if possible, from Director O'Gara, and propose what he has recommended, which is some form of an immediate working group to try and look up how we address that. So I'm happy to propose that. But I just would like some clarification around what they've actually said here, which appears to say that under Article 28, we have existing responsibilities for cleanup, but it doesn't state that there's a 20-ton limit as it stands. I also note that they say that under the Article 73 in the past, the department had responsibility for hazardous substances and imminent, dangerous, serious pollution risks. Will these be transferred across is really what I'm wondering. If so, how are we meant, like, what is the capacity of a council to deal with the hazardous issue? So it's not just Articles 4 and 5, but even this Article 28 and then the Article 73 powers. Are these also being passed across? And if so, what are the human resource implications for that, especially at this time?
Okay, Kevin, you want to come in and respond?
Up as part of a fly tipping protocol, which not all councils, but the majority of councils had actually signed up to. So it was trying to deal with to have a clear rationale for when it was the council's responsibility and when it was the department's responsibility. So it doesn't actually appear in the Articles 4 and 5, but it was in the fly tipping protocol. So that was one of the issues that the working group were to sit down and thrash through and sort any issues out with regards to it. With regards to hazardous waste, not all hazardous waste were to fall because of the specialist natures of one, identifying, and two, having the specialisms to deal with hazardous waste of various types, that it was resting with the department. And now, under my reading of this, is that they would be proposing to transfer that to the council. So again, it would have quite major financial implications. As I said, the meeting in Belfast, the department had indicated that there was they didn't think that there would be huge resources required, and I asked the department how many staff they had engaged in carrying out this activity, and they said 30. And I said, well, that's 29 more than I have. So there is a large financial resource and a drain with regards to hazardous waste and a training. If you're dealing with hazardous waste, you need fully trained and competent and drilled staff to how to deal with all the various ranges. So fairly major implications across the board. And the resolution at that time was, look, we're not going to sort it out around at that meeting, and that the working group should be set up to deal with it. And I would strongly recommend that we put it back and ask that that be further investigated and initiated and before any final decisions made.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Now we'll move on to Councillor Dayton, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to thank Kevin for his report, which is Minister Putt's letter. I was very concerned. It's clear to me that the total the emphasis back in terms of these and responsibilities, but absolutely no mention of resourcing issues, either financial or in terms of personnel and expertise. And as Kevin has already detailed, particularly in regard to hazardous waste, there is a high degree of skill and expertise needed to handle hazardous waste safely and in a way which is cognizant of the environmental impact. And, you know, to say that there isn't much work involved when okay. As Kevin has suggested, that we immediately call for the setting up of a workshop, a working group to explore all of these issues, including proper funding, proper personnel, and a clear delineation of the duties of both departments and council.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. That's great. Thank you.
And finally,
all the best, Kathy.
Chair, Chair, I want to second Councillor Podrigan Kelly's proposal that the department should also fund and implement an anti-litter campaign, because I think we need to get the message out there that fly tipping is socially unacceptable, that is hugely damaging to the environment, and that it creates a lot of lessening of the amenity of our countryside. So I want to second her proposal as well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dayton. Can we move on to Councillor McAleer, please?
Thanks very much, Chair. I wasn't sure if I was going to get back in or not.
You were on the list. You were on the list, don't worry.
My old problem used to switched off mid-speech. Now I'm not getting in, but no, that's great. I think Councillor Dayton, she kind of broke up a wee bit in the middle of that, but I think she seconded Councillor O'Coffey's motion, so I would like to lend my support to that as well. I think reading through the letter, it's another very flippant and very not necessarily, it's lacking any real concrete in it. You know, there's a paragraph starts, at present I have not made a decision or fixed a date on when to commence the legislative change. So like reading that, it's not even that this is a decision that has been made, but I would certainly share the concerns of the previous speakers and indeed of Kevin, that this is something that currently isn't viable. And I would just like to support the speakers and the motion brought by, or the proposal brought by Councillor Coffey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And move on now to Councillor Erskine, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to wish you well in your year in the chair role. It's a very important role, so thank you for taking it on. No, it was just something I wanted to say. I was going to come in to second Councillor Kelly's proposal in terms of a campaign, and I just want to put on record thanks to Kevin and his team during this time. I think, Kevin, I've probably tortured you over this period of time with issues, rubbish issues and different things. So thank you for all the times that you have come back to me, and for your team for going out and cleaning the rubbish that people have left behind. It's quite disgraceful that during this whole COVID situation, we have had people who have saw fit just to leave their rubbish wherever they want. It's really frustrating when we have such a beautiful area such as Fermanagh and people just have dumped their rubbish wherever they like in the countryside. So I think we really do need, as well as at a local level, perhaps it's something the chair can look at as well through his Facebook page and through our local council Facebook pages, about just reiterating that message. You know, if you've nowhere to put your rubbish, take it home. And at a centre level as well, you know, increasing that message throughout our district of Fermanagh that we need to make sure we have a clean and tidy, welcoming place for everybody that comes to visit, hopefully in the very near future. I know muckers has been an issue of fly tipping, and I'll finish up on this. So, you know, I want to thank the council as well and some of the local volunteers that have been down there collecting the rubbish as well during this period of time. So I know it's already been done, but happy as well to support that motion of Councillor Kelly's. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deborah. And just before we move on, I see Councillor Greens haven't bothered with sound again. Is there anything that could be still bad there? Seamus,
No, it was just when Councillor Dayton was on, and then some other voices were coming in as well. But it's fine now again, Garvin. Thanks. And by the way, good luck in your year.
Thanks very much, Seamus. Thank you. So we'll move swiftly on to Councillor Feely now, please.
Thank you, Keirley. Can you hear me all right, Garvin?
I can hear you, yeah.
Congratulations, Garvin, and the best.
Thank you.
It's not easy chairing meetings normally, but I said, hey, doing it that way, it'll be very hard. Hey, I'll be brief. There's a lot of stuff with me covered. I was going to second maybe colleague Councillor Kelly's proposal there. It's a major issue down around my area as well, this fly tipping, and it's a good idea of parties there to try and get it advertised more. And I just want on record thanking the staff that came out and lifted all the rubbish around this area during this pandemic. And I agree with other councillors, will carry on to be dumping stuff on the side of the road. Just have it on record to thank the staff that's doing it. And best of luck, Gavin. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anthony. And move on now to Councillor Irvine.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm in agreement with what the councillors previously have said in regard to the transfer, this supple transfer function without talking about resourcing. My problem would be, and it's a question for Kevin and possibly Alison, if this is the thrust coming from the department, I would have a problem that then the NIEA becomes a regulator, a police person, if I can use that word, on behalf of the department. And if we were to take on a functional role, they actually then might try and legislate us in regard to what we do, how we do it, where we do it, and everything like that. And it would add another layer of complication on. I would ask Kevin and Alison, We, as a council, are obviously against this thrust, and that's where the motions are coming from. What are the other councils who were party to moving forward with the protocol have to say as well? Because I wouldn't like to just be a lone voice crying against the department if the other councils have acquiesced and have no real issue with this. Maybe Kevin and Stroke Alison would be able to give me a reply, please.
Thanks, Councillor. Kevin?
With regards to grave concerns about the direction of travel, the financial implications, and the fact that I don't think any of the 11 councils have the adequate resources and trained staff to take on this function. So I think that was the, the feeling that we should have a working group to take it forward. So very much working all 11 councils with the same strategy.
Right, just thank you very much, Kevin, on the back of that. I know we're dealing with one department here, DERA, but I think that the First Minister and Deputy First Minister should be made aware of this in regard to a subtle thrust by one department to transfer back down to council without actually talking about adequate resourcing, and at least try and get it on the table. Because if legislation has to be laid, it'll have to go before Stormont, and at least we would want to have some form of forward foot put forward to actually try and stop this with our reasons. So I would propose that we send a letter jointly to the First Minister and Deputy First Minister expressing ours and citing the other councils that we're allied with concerns in regard to this possible direction of travel and the severe implications that it would have for both the department and ourselves as a council. That's my proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Just bringing in Alison now.
Chair, it was really just following on from Councillor Irvine's proposal, and I wonder perhaps if it would be appropriate to also alert the Department for Communities as the responsible body for local government, because it would be really that department ultimately who would have to confirm it's within our suite of functions or otherwise. And secondly, I would wonder, given the widespread political concern, perhaps NILGA should also be updated in terms of the council's position on this, because they obviously have a direct line to political engagement on these matters. So just for suggestions, Chair.
I'm happy. Thank you very much, Alison, for that. I'm happy to do that, to copy in NILGA in regard to the correspondence going forward. And I agree with you. We should wrap in the Department for Communities as well as the Executive Office, obviously, in regard to our serious concerns in regard to the direction of travel that the DERA seems to want to do. So I'm happy to do that and take that within my proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Robert. And now move swiftly on to Councillor Donnelly. Stephen Donnelly, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and just want to congratulate you on your new role and wish you well for the year ahead. And if Councillor Irvine proposal requires a seconder, I'm more than happy to second in that regard. And I would also like just to voice my support for the proposal from Councillor Kelly with respect to fly tipping, as I know that it's been an issue in my own neck of the woods around Clannabogan, and I'm sure that it's an issue that every councillor has come up against in every DEA across our district. I would just say, in terms of the correspondence, that the lack of detail from the Minister is quite alarming. And really, I mean, the only sustainable basis upon which you can have the Council assuming new powers is if you have the appropriate finances, if you do have a clear definition of role and responsibilities, and also if you have the appropriate personnel in place. And it strikes me that none of this has been clarified, the detail isn't there. And so the only viable way forward for us is to have a working group working on these issues, teasing out the detail, trying to reach a solution to this, because at the moment it strikes me as being very concerning that that detail just isn't there. So thank you very much, Chair.
Stephen, and now Councillor Kelly, Catherine Kelly, please.
Thank you, and congratulations on your new role, and good luck in the future. You have very important work to do. I just want to say that the letter was could be best described almost as dismissive, and I agree with Councillor Irvine about we need to be very cautious about the direction of travel insinuated in that letter. I also want to thank Kevin before he gets out of there and admit that I also tortured him on a lot of issues during the year, but I want to say express my thanks to him. Fly tipping is a blight on every one of our communities, and I'm sure that we can all name an incident within the last few weeks, at least one in our own constituencies. And I think that we need to get beyond condemning it. And I agree that we probably need to establish some kind of working group in it. And Paddy's proposal is excellent about communication on it. But we need to start looking about reporting structures and fines and making it an offence in a real way so that we can discourage people from doing it. That's all really. Just thank you.
Thanks very much. And now Councillor Smith, Chris Smith, please. Are you there, Chris?
Yeah. So a lot for me, the video. But best of luck, Chair. I just wanted to say, one, I'm in support of the previous proposals, but I also heard it's a
That's great, Chris. Thank you. And now, Councillor Swift, Bernice, please.
Yeah, Garamagat here. Look, and I just want to echo everything that the councillor said, and I was going to make those points, but I don't need to repeat them or rehash them. They were very well made, and I just want to strongly voice that if there's no adequate or sufficient funding coming forward, no transfer, no thanks. We're just not going to be doing it, and I would be vociferous on that regard. And I do think that the issue of fly tipping and people who are continuing to be so careless in dumping their rubbish and just general rubbish being thrown out of windows of cars is totally unacceptable. If we are learning anything during this COVID period, it has to be all about the environment, and we're coming on to talking about the bees and everything later on, but everything has its adverse impact, and this is individual responsibility. Normally you hear me giving out about central government responsibility. In this instance, it's certainly down to each and every one of us, and we don't want this falling back on our local ratepayer, because there's where the cost impact will be. And just to say thank you also to Kevin O'Gara, and I wish him the very best of good luck in his retirement, and no doubt he'll have a much better scenery in his future than he does at the minute. So good luck to you, Kevin, and thank you very much for all the help that you provided me with all over the time we worked together. Okay, Guramagat.
Thanks, Bernice. And now Councillor Dayton, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for letting me in again. I just really wanted to come in to support Councillor Irvine's proposals, which are very sound. If he wouldn't mind incorporating in his letter to Minister Hardy, Department for Communities, that this is an item that we should place on the next meeting of the partnership panel, because this is the formal conduit communication between local government and central government. And as Kevin states, and Alison, it is certainly a matter of concern for all 11 councils, and I think an opportunity to discuss this further at the partnership panel would be appreciated by all. So if Councillor Irvine would be happy to incorporate that into his proposal, that would be my suggestion, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Josephine, are you okay with that, Councillor Irvine?
Happy to do that, Chair. No problem at all. Thank you very much, Josephine, for the suggestion. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. And now, Anthony, are you looking in again, Councillor Feely?
Sorry, Gavin, I forgot to take my hand down. Sorry about that, Gavin.
Well, dead on. And now, Councillor Elliott Keith, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And first of all, wish you well for your year ahead, and also to Kevin. I'd like to thank Kevin for all his hard work from my time in the council. He's been a great help. and I wish him a happy retirement. I would agree with everything that has been said on this item, but I'd also like to put on record me disgust at the state that the people are actually leaving, you know, the town. And there's been a big, obviously since the takeaways have reopened again, there's been with regard to rubbish lying about the car parks around the Lakeland Forum, and that's just in a small area. I know it's a bigger issue with fly tipping maybe in the countryside and that, but I know we talked about the enforcement officer and things like that in the past. But where are we with our own enforcement officer with regard to policing the like of these car parks in around the Lakeland Forum? Surely there's plenty of opportunity for us for cameras and things like that there. Has there been any more thought given on that? Because as I say, I know all week I've been on to Steve and on to Stuart Burns and things like that, and to be fair, the guys have been out, they've cleaned up, but they shouldn't have to do it. You know, we're in trying times, and it's putting extra pressures on the council that we don't need. It's not hard to bring a bit of rubbish home or carry it on to the next available bin. So I just want to know, with regard to our enforcement officer, is she furloughed or is she out and about? Thank you.
You want to come in and respond there, Kevin?
With regards to fly tipping, yes, I totally agree with everything the members have said about the blight on a society, and something which we hope that we'll certainly strive to minimise. We have introduced a number of cameras on locations, and we have quite a number of prosecutions pending with regards to people who have fly tipped at various locations around the district. I don't have the exact figures here tonight, but certainly I can ask officers to bring bring details to a future meeting. But I can assure you, we're certainly following up on all of fly tipping, both no matter where it is. We're inspecting, and if we find any evidence that we can use to take an action, we are following up on that. And we're very rigorously following up, and I know there's quite a lot of fixed penalties being issued, and I'd say I'll get those statistics brought to a future meeting for members.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And finally, we have Councillor Gannon, please.
Thank you, Chair. And it was just on that issue that Keith brought up there, in terms of the littering. I was going to bring it up later during your report, but you mentioned how in your report how often you are, or how often our staff are emptying bins, and even myself going around various areas in the district, you can see overflowing bins. So I was wondering if it would be possible to identify hotspots where bins are repeatedly full. Obviously, it won't be everywhere, and make sure that extra trips, if possible, obviously with staffing levels at the minute we don't know, but to make sure if extra trips can be made to empty those bins, because if the bins are full, it only encourages people to litter. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gannon. And now Councillor Fitzgerald Anne-Marie, please.
That he knows himself, but I suppose with the last few months, with staff being furloughed and that there, and I know things have been very difficult for Kevin to keep the waste management in progress, and they have done a very good job on that. But I think the overflowing dog litter bins in the town, especially, which I have found to be the Cranny Bridge, the Hospital Road area, and this evening that I got notified and I went and had a look at it on the near the fold on the Great Northern Road walkway was an overflowing dog litter bin. But you know what, I really don't want to take a snipe at council staff or any bit of, because I want to admire all our officers and our staff, and the way the space staff have been embraced and enjoyed their new roles. But Kevin, I wonder, is it possible, and maybe even propose, if the council could take a more major focus on the issue of dog litter bins on a more regular basis, as it really is a health and safety issue for all of us. And we know that you can get a rare infection called from the roundworm parasite from the dog feces, and I believe it's called toxocariasis, and it can lead to blindness. As a council, we've always stressed, we've asked people to responsibly dispose of their dog waste, and to show that our council proactively do regular bin collections, so we can promote what we preach. So just that, Kevin, just proposing that hopefully that we do seek a way forward and maybe have a look at the routes, especially now that the footfall has increased dramatically, and we don't want any of our constituents to get any of these rare diseases.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Just to say we've 4 more speakers. I think that will hopefully bring it to a close, because we need to move on. I know there's not that much on the agenda, but we want to try and get all the business sorted. So, Councillor Maguire, next, please.
Gur magur ke Caherly agus go gorgeous lat agus I'm more like the Kevin. Thanks very much, Chair, and congratulations on your new role, and good luck to Kevin on his exit in the role. If I could just seek some clarification on the point of the working group. Is it envisaged that it's a working group within the council, or was it a suggestion that a working group of officers across the councils would make representation on the issue? It seemed to be slightly confused there during the discussion. And if Councillor Fitzgerald's proposal requires a second, I'm quite happy to second it. Go on, That's
great. Thanks, Councillor Maguire. Do you need anything, Kevin?
Representative from the department to see if an agreed position could be developed that both the department could recommend and that the officers could bring to members with a positive recommendation, rather than just saying blankly no. It was felt that the department and staff got together with officers that they potentially could work up a solution. And with regards to dog bins, certainly we will. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we have obviously had to diminish some of our staff to keep the frontline refuse collection service, and it has been a struggle to keep that service operating, but we have been successful to do that. And unfortunately, some of the normal cleansing routes have been are not what we would normally accept as our normal routine. But we will endeavour to get back to as close to normality as we can as soon as possible.
Thanks for that, Kevin. Now, Councillor Thompson, please. Are you there, Councillor Thompson? Harold?
Sorry, Chairman, you were actually cut out there. I want to just support everything that has been said and that have been made with regard to this issue. Just with regard to Councillor Fitzgerald's proposal, and I know Councillor Maguire seconded it there now, but I'm also keen to support that one. And particularly with regard to Omagh Town, there has been a lot of these dog fouling bins that have been left, and some of them have been off the beaten track slightly, so they possibly have been missed with the stretch on our staff and that. But I'm happy to support her proposal as well. Just want to put that in record. And I want at this juncture, I know you were going to bring it up in any other business, Chair, but I want to actually thank Kevin for all the work that he's done over the last couple of decades, possibly. I've been here a decade, and I know I've worked closely with him on many issues, and I've always found him to be very, very helpful. So I want to put that record and wish Kevin all the best and a happy retirement. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thompson. And I see there's a couple of councillors have been in before, and I'm moving on to councillors that haven't spoken. There's going to be 2 speakers left, and then we have to move on with this item. So Councillor Michael Duff, and then Councillor Armstrong, and then that's this item hopefully finished.
Thank you, Chair, and again to wish you all the best in the year ahead, Garvin. You're not solved. But could I just say, I would ask Councillor Fitzgerald if she would incorporate into her proposal an awareness campaign. I know we're talking about awareness campaigns in respect of, that's absolutely right, but even the whole business of dog fouling has come to light tremendously in the past number of weeks, and I think we should have an awareness even involve writing to dog owners who are on our database, because the dogs will be chipped in most cases. But I think we really should step up our efforts to clean up our area, and I'm speaking in relation to Omagh Town specifically. how much dog fouling there is. This evening I took a call from a lady who lives at Old Dromore Road, Oma, and it's a popular walking route for dog owners. They bring their dogs there through Coolnagard Lane or from other parts of the town. And there's a real problem at Old Dromore Road, so I would like to see perhaps a small number of dog foul bins and some appropriate signage there for the owners to take on board. But I think an overall awareness campaign is needed, including writing to dog owners. And I think if we write to them all, then we're not singling out any. I know that might have resource implications, and I take Kevin's point about the achievement that it has been to maintain the frontline service of black, blue and brown bins in recent weeks. But rather than just being reactive to dog foul bins, we need to become more proactive. So I would ask Councillor Fitzgerald if she would incorporate those sentiments and those action points into her motion or her proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Is that okay, Councillor Fitzgerald, to incorporate that? If you want to come in and indicate, Anne-Marie.
Hello?
Hello, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was having problems with my end. I was on to IT there just. Yeah, I'm happy enough with Barry's proposal to come in on that, yeah.
That's perfect, thank you.
Okay.
And now,
sorry about that, I'm having problems.
No bother at all. And I know Councillor McCaffrey's hadn't bothered with his hand, but if you can come in now there, Chris, if you want.
Yeah, Gurmag a Carly agus Kahar just la Arish as the role nua. Thanks again, Chair, and thanks for letting me in. There must have been an issue with the hand raising there. No, it's just at the beginning of item 4.6, the reference to the climate change resilience group. Just as chair of that group, I was just wondering if meetings that were due to take place could be reconvened, possibly remotely as well. I know it makes reference there to the zero waste campaign. So just if any of that could be reconvened. Gormagad.
Yeah, that's fine, Chris. Thank you. So that's all speakers, and I know we had quite a few proposals. They've all been seconded as well. So that's it. All in agreement with them. Yeah. If there's any dissent, please put your hand up. I know Barry, you still have your hand up if you want to take it down. Okay, so move on to page 4, matters arising. I think there's a point here, Kevin.
Sorry, Chairman, just for members aware, we had previously indicated to members we're developing the 2 dog parks. They are virtually complete at this stage. We're just waiting for a couple of gates and then they'll be fully operational. They're fully fenced off and all the signage has been developed. So hopefully as soon as we get them, they'll be slightly delayed because of galvanizing backlog. But as soon as we have them, we'll be opening them hopefully fairly imminently, which we hope will help to certainly minimize some of the problems that we've discussed over the last 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Kevin. And as matters arising, page 4, is there a point there you want to come in on, Kevin?
No.
4.7. 4.2 on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, Chairman, members, this is just an update from the department with regards to the delay, restriction on John Street and Calvin Road and their proposals to produce a no waiting area. So that's slightly amendment of what was previously brought to members, and a number of members that actually went and had a site visit with the department on that. So that's the current update, Chairman.
Thank you, Kevin. So we'll bring in Councillor O'Coffey at this point.
Chair, thanks for that. I wanted to speak on 4.9, so if someone wants to come in on 4.7 before me.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on. Councillor McAleer, you want to speak on 4.7?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. One of the people that referred to making the site visit, I think having read the letter, there doesn't really seem to be any change in what is planned. It's just a change in terminology. So happy enough to propose or note or whatever needs done with that particular correspondence.
Thanks, Emmett. And move on now to Councillor Maguire, please.
Sorry, Chair, a hand left up from the previous interjection.
No problem, Tommy. Thank you. Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can I second the noting of this correspondence? Like Councillor McAleer, I and others were at that site meeting in John Street with Colin McElhone from DFI Roads. It's the creation of an urban clearway. You know, congestion in Omagh has been tremendously problematic, and this is one small measure aimed at addressing that. Now, there's only one concern I would have, and it's this. Despite, you know, perhaps the best efforts of DFI Roads to consult businesses in John Street, I think businesses feel a deficit of consultation in this. They're not setting out to prevent this measure, but there might have been an early attempt to engage with businesses several months ago. But I just detect that from speaking to businesses in John Street. Feel that they weren't part of the process, and all I would say is that I would perhaps propose that we write to DFI Roads and that DFI Roads keeps this under review and does a kind of a post-evaluation exercise in consultation with traders in John Street to see the impact of this measure. You know, is it actively helping to reduce congestion, or is it creating more problems? I think it's a good measure myself, but I have to emphasise that some businesses in that area, more than I thought, felt that they weren't properly consulted, even though it's probably a good measure. So I propose that we write to DFI Roads and that we ask them to have a post-project evaluation with the business people of John Street who are impacted by this. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor McAleer. That proposal is tabled. And now Councillor Stephen Donnelly, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I would be more than happy to second. Largely consistent with what we actually sought at the site meeting, which was that whenever this proposal was implemented, that it would be actively reviewed and sort of kept under observation to make sure that it was having the positive impacts that we hoped that it would have. I'm happy enough, as Councillor McAleer has already said, this seems broadly similar to what was agreed already, and the thrust of the proposal is a positive one, trying to deal with the congestion in that Kevlin Road, John Street, New Brighton Terrace area, and I think that this will have a positive dividend when it's brought forward, so happy enough to see this proceed. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Donnelly, and now Councillor Dayton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I welcome I also want to express my thanks to Colin McElhone and his colleagues in DFI Roads. The issue of traffic congestion has been a long-running sore in Omagh for decades. We had hoped that with the long-awaited opening through pass, that hasn't proved to be the case. The area in question, Chair, is one which is particularly prone to congestion, being as there are several large schools in that area, and it makes travel across town, particularly at the times that school children are moving to and from schools, almost impossible. I know that Colin McElhone gave a guarantee that he would look at traffic flows and he would do whatever he could to alleviate the congestion. So I do hope that this proposal will bring some easement of the situation, and I want to welcome it, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Dayton. Also, just probably for the rest of the meeting, if you want to keep your camera switched off, because I know you've been breaking up a wee bit, it might help with the bandwidth if the camera's just off and you're just using the mic, so it might be more clear that way if you don't mind. I see Councillor McElduff, you still have your hand raised if you want to take that down. And we'll move on to Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I want to support both Councillor McAleer and his proposal for noting 4.7. I also attended the meeting, a very constructive meeting we had with Colin McElhone from DFI Roads. and also want to support Councillor Michael Duff and his proposal with regard to maybe more engagement with businesses, and just not particularly to do with Calvin Road or John Street, but if they're going to do, if they've work to do with regard to any of this, that there should be more consultation with the businesses involved along the route. So I'm happy enough to propose that. And just somebody had mentioned there about the through pass. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, I lived in the town all my life, and in the 70s and 80s it was clogged up. I wouldn't like to think what it would be like now if I hadn't got on my through pass, but that's for another day. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, and that's all speakers. So I think we had another few proposals, and they've all been seconded there, and we're all in agreement. I take it if somebody's not in agreement, please raise your hand now. Yeah, that's that matter dealt with. And I think Councillor O'Coffey on page 4, you want to talk about 4.9, is that right?
I did indeed. Thank you, Chair. It was just this issue of the play park strategy workshop. Now, obviously, I've raised significant concerns around that previously, the play park strategy. And obviously, it's a matter of some concern to many of the councillors, I'm sure. But I'm just wondering, is there another date? And also, has there been any further development on the strategy since the last time it's came back towards us?
Chair, I can maybe comment. We're looking at rescheduled dates, Councillor. We don't have those as yet, but we're, as you know, you have a fairly full schedule now for the month of June, so that will be reconvened on a virtual basis. Certainly, the comments that members made at the last meeting have been collated and are being cross-referenced with the report, and then any suggested amendments will be presented to that workshop in the first instance. I do think there was quite a lot of support, certainly for the methodology and other aspects, but any variations from that will certainly be brought to that workshop for further consideration.
Thanks, Alison. Councillor McAleer, are you looking in the same point?
Sorry, I put my hand back down. It was just to see if our time had been allocated for that, but Alison's provided that. Thanks, Chair.
That's no problem. Okay, so moving on, matters raised in page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8. Oh, sorry. You want to come in? Page 7. Yeah, Councillor O'Coffey, you want to come in there?
It was page 6 I had my hand up for. It's obviously some of the councillors were allowed to speak on the issue of dog fouling previously, and I was going to speak at page 6, which is the correct, at least the first correct position, I thought. In any case, I would like to propose dog fouling is a major issue. Obviously, we need to empty out the dog fouling bins. But I'm wondering, is it possible for the council to bring forward some sort of highlighter initiative? I know we've done it previously. I think it would be a good thing to do again. People are out a lot more, obviously with the COVID crisis. It's a major issue. We all know the story. Can we do something about highlighting dog fouling? Because I think it does raise awareness, and I think it's a way of just bringing home to people what they're responsible for. So it's just a proposal if we could investigate that as an option. Thank you.
Councillor O'Coffey, do you want to come in, Kevin?
Chairman, I think it's a good idea, and I think we'll incorporate it with the opening of our new dog parks, which hopefully will be very soon. So I think we'll coincide with a campaign for good dog management and to stop fouling and to encourage the public to use those facilities and to and look after their dogs properly.
Thanks, Kevin. And Councillor McAleer is on the same point.
Yes, it is indeed. I just wanted to point out that it's already incorporated into Councillor Fitzgerald's motion, an awareness campaign in relation to dog fouling. But I think Councillor Coffey took us back. I wanted to talk about item 5. Item 5, you know, that animal welfare section that you were moving into there, Chairperson. Isn't that the stage you were at?
Page 5.
Yeah. So it's animal welfare. It refers back to Clement Kennedy's report to the meeting last time around. Could I maybe, Kevin, if he doesn't have the answer now, it's understandable, but what powers do we have as a council if we receive reports of animals being exposed to the elements in a cage at someone's home, you know, where the animal is not receiving any protection from the sides or from any roofing. So it's in that area there. I want to speak specifically tomorrow, Thursday, to the relevant council officer. But just to note that I have received a report of animals being exposed to elements with no protection from the elements whatsoever by a distraught lady who contacted me this evening. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor McAuliffe. Do you want to speak, Kevin? Or?
Chairman, I mean, I don't have the exact specifics, but I mean, any animal welfare issue where someone has concerns that an animal is not being properly looked after, that it's not been properly fed or water, or has access to food or water or shelter, would be normally something that we would be interested in looking into and investigating. And obviously a lot will depend on the nature of the animal and type of animal, but certainly our staff are more, that's their bread and butter, to investigate matters such as that. And certainly if you pass on the details, our staff will be very happy to look into that matter for the member.
Thanks, Kevin. Now, Councillor Gannon, please.
Thanks, Chair. If it's needed, I'm happy to second Councillor O'Coffey's proposal. It's a good idea, and if it needs a seconder, happy to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back on Barry's point there, I had an incident recently of a report given the walkers were distressed. They thought the animal was distressed, but in that instance, animal welfare did go out very promptly and they resolved the situation, so to everybody's satisfaction. There was a reason. It was what it was thought, but quick to respond. I think all it takes is us to send an email in and the matter was dealt with. Thank you very much. Just back to highlighting dog acts. I don't remember the reason why we didn't proceed with it. I just wonder, can anybody help me with that? We talked about spray, colour spray, and I just don't know what the reason why at that stage it wasn't adopted. So maybe some of the other fellow councillors can cast their mind back. Thank you, Chair.
I think we did, Kevin. It was going for a while, wasn't it?
Chairman, we did. I just need to double check my facts on it, but I think we did have a conversation about it and whether we felt it was a good idea to highlight it and to leave it for a period. I think we took advice of where it had been done, tried elsewhere, and we felt that it. Well, I don't think it was terribly successful. But let me double check and just get the staff who proposed that original scheme to update members for a future meeting, if you're happy enough with that, Chairman.
Thanks, Kevin. Councillor McAleer, is this on the same point?
Yes, just further to Councillor McElduff's point there, I think given that we are the lead council in the north here for animal welfare, I think it would be sort of nearly the opposite of his suggestion too, that if people in the public are made aware of the rights and responsibilities that they have when they see dogs locked in hot cars, especially given the recent weather that we've had, and what your rights and responsibilities are in terms of seeing an animal in distress and those sort of situations. So if there was some sort of an information or an awareness campaign being brought or some information being fed back on, any information in relation to that, I think would be a good idea. So maybe Councillor McElduff might be happy enough to include that in his proposal. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer. Are we happy enough with that, Councillor McElduff?
Yes, indeed, no problem. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks very much. Councillor Dayton, you are looking on the same point.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your earlier suggestion that I should keep my video turned off. And even though my colleagues will not have the opportunity of seeing my happy face, I hope I can make my point just as effectively. Just in response to Councillor Armstrong's remembering that we discussed the issue of dog filing in the council some years ago, and I remember the debate very well because I was absolutely horrified at the thought of leaving dog excrement uncleansed and spraying it to highlight it. Councillor Fitzgerald is quite right in what she said earlier in the meeting, and I indeed made that point myself at that time about the real risk to health that dog excrement poses through Toxocara, and indeed, sadly, many people have lost their vision as a result of this. So I'm very glad that that proposal was abandoned at an early stage. But nevertheless, the issue of dog fouling is an important one, and one which really spoils our enjoyment of our many beautiful parks and walks. And I'm fully in agreement that dog owners need to be reminded of their responsibility to clean up after their pets. So thank you for the opportunity of making that point, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dayton. Now, Councillor Garrity, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'll be very brief. You're going through these people well, and just to say, Councillor Dayton's one of the few faces I don't mind looking at, just to put that on record. But this issue is contentious and always will be, and I'm just putting a bit out there to the councillors that I completely agree with all that is being said. But in my situation here locally, and I'm sure I'm not the only councillor, a process of mediation is what I start off with before contacting any of the relevant officials, and I have found that very helpful, and it works for me in most cases. Now, obviously, they're in bigger towns, and that you're going to have more people and more offenders. But, I would encourage us as public representatives to, we have the authority on the ground, in my opinion, to pull people to task and say this isn't correct, or can you fix the error of your ways. And normally, when people have that conversation, maybe even through embarrassment, it solves the situation. So I think we have a duty to do that, and I'd say to all councillors to exercise your right to speak to people if you see something, and hopefully the message will get through as well. And actions speak louder than words sometimes, and if they see you doing the proper actions, they'll follow through and know that you're watching them as well. So just a suggestion to members. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mary. And now, Councillor Maguire. Tommy, please.
I'm going to reach Carly. Thanks again, Chair. I'm only coming in to point out a point of clarity again. When Councillor O'Coffey mentioned highlighting dog fouling, I thought this is going to cause some confusion, because prior to his entry into the chamber, we did have this discussion about spray painting and highlighting physically the dog foul, whereas I was fairly sure that Councillor O'Coffey wasn't aware that that had happened in the past. He probably has picked it up now from the conversation, but just again to be more specific, that he was talking about highlighting the issue of dog fouling, where previously we were talking about highlighting it with spray paint. It just caused a bit of confusion there. I thought I'd clear it up.
Thanks very much for that, Tommy. And now, Councillor Gang, you've been in before, so please make it brief. Is your hand down? I don't know. That's no problem. Councillor Swift, then, please.
Yeah, good to hear that. So can I just then be doubly sure that we're definitely not talking about highlighting it as in, the yellow highlighter or the pink highlighter pen, because at the time that conversation I actually thought it was ludicrous at the time, to say the least, and it's notwithstanding the very serious issue of dog fouling, but there has to be other ways. And as Tommy's after saying, I certainly hope Donal was meaning just highlighting as raising the very serious issue. And I know, Kevin, you've been polite there in saying, yes, we're considering everything in our next paper, but please, we're not considering that, certainly. We're not it.
Thank you, Bernice. Councillor O'Coffey, you've been in on this before, so please make this very brief. I just want to move this on.
Yeah, it's just to clarify, obviously, I was referring to highlighting it with coloured ink. This is what happens in many other local authorities, is my understanding. It was discussed at the council previously, but I just don't know why we wouldn't do that. The highlighting is, obviously, you highlight it before you then lift it. So that's what I was proposing, frankly. So, but
that's dead on, Councillor O'Coffey. Thank you. Councillor Elliott, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, just I recall that there was actually markings put on the paths and around the Lakeland Forum, and at first in certain areas with regard to dog fouling, it was in yellow spray paint, or a wee thing was put in to stop your dogs or whatever, but it wasn't highlighting the actual dirt. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And now that's all speakers, and all proposals have been seconded, so we're all in agreement. So move on now. Matters raised on page 6, page 7, page 8. Sorry, who's that? Sorry, come on in, Siobhan.
Garvin. So there was a proposal there that was seconded, but I'm not sure there that we were all in agreement around spray painting dog waste.
I think. Do you want to come in there, Kevin?
Chair, I think that was more or less a query on it was a topic that was talked about some time back, and I know from previous discussions with staff that they felt that it wasn't a proposal that really should have gone forward, and that was taken the experiences of other councils that had done something on the similar line. So we weren't proposing that we were going to do that, but certainly we will look at all possible initiatives to try to highlight the importance of people looking after their pets and cleaning up after them. And certainly our staff are looking at all options on a continual basis, but I don't believe we'll be taking that proposal forward. But certainly we'll get a further report back, and as I say, we'll run a campaign in or around the time that we're opening the 2 new dog parks to try to re-emphasise the importance of people looking after their pets and cleaning up after them in a proper and appropriate, safe manner.
Okay, Gurmagad clearly.
Thanks, Siobhan. Donley looking in on a point.
No, that's fine, sorry.
Now Councillor McAleer.
Sorry, I think maybe you can keep me right, just in relation to paper 8 here and some of the street naming and numbering, and I'm not sure if that's to be dealt with now or under item 5.2 further on the agenda.
Yeah, we're only dealing with matters arising here, Emmett, so
I suppose it is on the back of this, but yeah, just for clarity, I suppose it's good to know that.
No problem. Councillor Stephen McCann, please.
I'm looking in on page 9, Chair, just whenever you get that distance.
Okay, is anybody else looking in on page 8? Councillor Elliott, are you looking in on page 8?
My hand should be down. So.
All right, no problem. So page 9, Councillor McCann, do you want to come in there?
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, just congratulate you on your appointment to the Chair of Environmental Services and wish you all the best for the year ahead, Garvin. It's on 6.2 and it's in relation to Royal Mail. I know this mightn't be the appropriate committee to raise this under, but I think it's the most appropriate point here. From speaking to local postal workers, I've been made aware that there's a fairly significant delay and a build-up in parcels in local sorting offices, and it's down to primarily staff being off in relation to COVID-19, whether they're shielding, etc. And there's an issue as well, I think, where staff who are still working aren't able to avail of overtime due to an overtime ban. And this has resulted in a significant amount of mail, some of which is time urgent checks and legal documents, etc., and parcels not getting out to customers. And this is causing a bit of an issue. Can I propose, Chair, that we write to the most appropriate senior Royal Mail official in the North here to request that they address this matter with urgency, rather they allow overtime and put in place any measure which they see fit to address this backlog, just that overall our customers, or their customers, I should say, are starting to suffer here.
Thanks, Stephen. That proposes on the table. Now, Councillor Anthony Feely, please.
Thank you, Ciara. I was coming in on the same issue and happy to second Councillor McCann's proposal. Major issue down my way too, and funny, I was chatting one of the post lady there that comes to us today, and absolutely flat out, it's a big issue. I think they should be getting overtime. They're frontline staff and right there working, delivering parcels and all this extra stuff with the COVID now. So I'm just want to support Councillor McCann on that. Thank you, and second the proposal. Thank you, Gordon.
That's great, Anthony. Thank you. Councillor McAleer, your hand's still up. Do you want to take it down, or do you want to end on this point?
I was happy to second that motion. Like, this whole issue is a major one. I've been made aware even this week of parks in the Oma area that are being designated as Fermanagh addresses. So I think the getting back to Royal Mail and arranging some sort of a meeting with them as soon as we can would be brilliant. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon.
Thanks, Chair. It was kind of Emmett kind of mentioned it there. I think this might be worthwhile to bring up at our meeting, depending on obviously who we're meeting in their remit. Maybe Councillor the councillor would also include in his proposal to send that letter to the representative for a meeting as well, to make them aware that's an issue that we might like to discuss. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Adam. Is that okay with yourself, Councillor McCann?
Yeah, no major issue. It's just important, I think, that we do address this specific issue with urgency with the most appropriate staff, but absolutely no issue in this being discussed at the forthcoming meeting with Royal Mail as well. But I think this should be pushed on with a matter of urgency if possible.
That's great, Stephen. Thank you. Councillor Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. It's just, if possible, and with the agreement of Councillor McCann, I would like to include us to write to the CWU, which is the union representing the workers in Royal Mail, at least the workers, I think, as well as I may actually be Unite. Unite does represent some of the, but I certainly write to the CWU, I think, in regard to this issue, because they may well have a useful input, I believe.
Again, Stephen, is that okay with yourself?
Yes, Chair, more than happy. Anything at all that will get this issue resolved is the way forward.
That's great. Thank you. Now, Councillor Curry, please.
Just to record a declaration of interest here, please. I'm not taking part in this discussion. Okay, Gormagad.
No problem. Thank you. Councillor Thompson. There, Earl.
Sorry, once again, Chairman, you were cut out there when you called my name there, unfortunately. But it's just an issue of clarification, Chairman. I think you instructed people earlier on to keep their cameras switched off. Maybe that needs to be put out there again, to keep their cameras off. I think it's interfering. Thank you.
No problem at all. And Anthony Feely, your hand's still up. Do you want to come in on this point again, or?
No, so
That's no problem, Anthony. That's dead on. Councillor Garrity, please.
what am I now?
Thank you very much, Chair. And just a bit of clarity, Garvin, I'm seeking, Stephen quite rightly brought up this issue, and thanks for that, Stephen. But just, we were contacting the senior officials, and then we were having a meeting. So just if someone could clarify me, has this been banged into the meeting that we hope to have with post office officials? Just for my own clarity at this stage.
I think that's correct. Is that correct?
Happy to clarify, Chair, if you wish. I propose that we write in the first instance with a matter of urgency, I suppose, to the most senior official in the north in Royal Mail to address the backlog that's developing in parcels and local sorting centres. That should go off ASAP, but more than happy for that to be also discussed at the local level at the meeting, but this should go off ASAP.
Yeah, thanks that, Stephen, and I picked up your proposal spot on, and I totally support you in that. But it's just for a point of order, Chair.
I think, Chair, as well.
Sorry,
Mary, I think there's.
Sorry, we'll take let Mary finish off there, Stephen, and then you can come back in.
Sorry, Stephen, and just to say, yeah, fully support, but just as a point of order, that in case the members are confused about it, the Royal Mail, and just because of previous experience, the Royal Mail and Post Office are completely separate bodies. So just in case members might think that the meeting with the Post Office will address this, they will bounce that back and say, we cannot answer that because they're a separate body. So Stephen's right to send the letter, but they could be invited down along with that meeting, because it'll be a different representative that would have to be in attendance as to that'll be attending the Post Office meeting with us. So just they're two separate bodies, just so that we know that. Sending the information off. Thank you.
Mary, thank you. Stephen, do you want to?
No, just that very point I was going to make there. That's 100%.
No problem, Stephen. And Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's another angle to this. I just would ask members to consider too, and possibly Stephen could put it in his letter, is that once an order is placed and dispatched from a retailer or whoever, that money is taken out of the customer's account. So the money has gone out of the account, and in normal circumstances, it's delivered next day, it's delivered within 3 to 5 working days. But with these extended delays, that money is out of an account and the parcel has not arrived. So there's an incident there where the public are contacting the retailers saying, where's my product? I've paid my money. You know, it's another angle we need to look at in this delay with parcels. I wonder, Stephen, if that could be incorporated somehow in your proposal within the body of the letter, please.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Is that okay with yourself there, Councillor McCann?
Yes, absolutely. It's along the vein of what we're saying, that customers are being disenfranchised here by this issue, so more than happy to incorporate that.
Okay, that's great. And I will just bring Alison in.
Chair, it's more just a procedural point, and I know Councillor McCann has made this implicit in his proposal, given the urgency of this, and obviously we don't have council powers to this committee, just if we can get then the approval of the committee to issue this correspondence as soon as practical after the meeting. And in other words, not wait for council ratification of the decision.
Sure, we're all in agreement.
Propose that, Chair, if required.
Yeah, that's great. And I could have a seconder for that, please.
Second, Garvin. Thanks, Mary.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, that's all that dealt with, all proposals seconded. So now matters rising, page 9. Matters rising, page 10. Page 11.
Page 11, Chair.
Yeah.
Garvin, I had my hand up for page 10, I thought.
Okay, well, I'll take Councillor Baird first because it's page 10.
Is my hand not showing? I don't know whether it seems to be on the screen.
It's showing now, yeah.
Right, yeah, thank you very much. Item 6.2, page 10, pointer system. 2 points to raise. Councillor Warrington proposed, and I seconded that a meeting would be held with Royal Mail in relation to the implementation of the pointer system. I presume that, as we haven't been told about, there hasn't been a response from them, but also then in relation to member-specific comments relating to address confusion in the Cunyon and Brookborough areas, the head of building control and licensing stated that he would clarify the situation with the building control surveyor and report back to members. I certainly haven't had any report back on that. Maybe it was to the members of Erin East, if that was the interpretation. Could I have clarification, please?
Come in there, Kevin.
Chair, I will have to defer to our Chief Building Control Officer for an update on that. I don't have the information at present, but certainly I will get it brought back to members for clarification.
And I take it the meeting has, Royal Mail haven't acceded to the request for a meeting yet?
Not that I'm aware of, Chair.
Yeah, I think we need to follow up on that, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baird. And I see Councillor Green and Warrington are on this, so we'll bring in Councillor Green first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I had my hand up, but it's down again now. Happy enough with the answer.
Okay, thank you, Seamus. And Councillor Warrington.
Well, it was just to say there's been absolutely no meeting or no correspondence back from building control with reference to this in Erin East.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Warrington. And Councillor Dayton, your hand's still up. Are you looking in?
Yes, thank you. It's on item 6.4, Chair, if that's okay.
Yeah, on page 11, that's fine. You're going ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chair. This is the item on the reusable nappy scheme. And Chair, I have to say that I was very excited when I read this, and also very, very interested to hear a member's contribution that there are now in existence disposable nappies. And I suppose my question is, if there are disposable compostable disposable nappies, why are we still using nappies that are not biodegradable? You know, the issue of nappies is a huge environmental issue. I have to say that, you know, I'm at a stage in my family life where thankfully I no longer have to purchase nappies, but I do remember the time when my children were very small that we used reusable nappies. In those days, they were called cloth nappies. And I remember being very proud of lines and lines of sparkling white nappies in the breeze, and I never used bleach. And nor would I because of the irritant properties to the skin. But nevertheless, I would like to propose, Chair, that we try to get some more information about these compostable nappies where are they obtainable from? Are they widely used, and are the general public informed about these compostable nappies? But otherwise, meantime, I do definitely support the scheme for the promotion of reusable nappies. And Chair, finally, I'd say this item reminded me of a joke which was told by the late English comedian Les Dawson in his usual deadpan way. He said, when we were growing up, we were so poor, we had to put 2 children into 1 nappy. So I don't recommend that, Chair, putting 2 children into 1 nappy, but I do support the notion of reusable nappies. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Dayton. Now, Councillor Warrington.
Sorry, Chair, forgot to put my hand down.
No problem. Thank you. Councillor Curry, please.
Well, I'm happy to second Councillor Dayton's proposal there, just for more information around the compostable nappies. It'd be great to just learn a little bit more about that. But also, under this, the last time I spoke about made the proposal to arrange a meeting with the Minister for Health, and I suspect that's probably a little bit of a way away now at this stage, but is it possible, and could I propose that we actually do contact the Western Health and Social Care Trust, certainly just to let them know that we do have this scheme running? And I know I'm not sure if it happens anymore, maybe others might be able to advise on this, but new mothers to get these bounty packs, if there could be something maybe promotional put into those, just to let people know that this is a scheme we're running.
Thanks very much. And now move on to Councillor McAleer, please.
Oh, sorry there. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy to learn a bit more about the disposable nappies, because as far as I understand, they do decompose, but it's still quite a long lifetime before they do decompose. So I think it'll be interesting if we can get a wee bit more feedback on that. Having brought this motion on, I think it is a very good motion to work towards that reduce and reuse and recycle theme that we are supporting and working forward with during the council. And just when this item's done, Chair, if I could just get to speak on another item on page 11 there, just before we move on, that'd be great. Thank you.
No problem, Councillor. Councillor O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to speak on this under page 12, but it's come up already. It's around the biodegradable nappies or diapers. I was going to propose that we actually write to the local main retailers to request whether they would actually provide them, because there's actually loads of them out there. I've got a website in front of me here with 8 of them listed now. They tend to sell them in very large quantities at quite expensive, cost, let's put it that way, which is probably beyond a lot of people, unfortunately. That's the truth. But some of them are not too bad. And I just propose that we write to the local supermarkets. Certainly, we can find out more about them. They're basically made with plant materials, no latex, no plastics at all, really, apart from plant-based ones, which do break down over time. And the other thing is that, unfortunately, one of the problems with the traditional nappy is that there's a huge amount of bleach involved and water consumption. So all of that's bad for the environment. And so it is the best approach if we could do something like this. So certainly, I'm glad Councillor Dayton got in before me and made pretty much the same point. But I would just like, if possible, maybe the best way is just ask if she's happy that we actually write to the major multinational retailers and ask them why they're not already providing these, frankly.
Okay, thanks for that, Donal. It's now Councillor McCann, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to comment briefly on the reusable nappy scheme. Whenever I asked this report be brought to the committee, for consideration, it was shocking, the figures that was put to me in relation to nappies going to landfill and the years that it took to decompose. And it seems a fairly, to somebody looking inside, it might seem a fairly trivial issue, but it's actually not. It's quite big out there. And I know this scheme, now it's in force and it's been fairly well received out there. Donald's just commented there, 7,000 nappies per baby. If that's correct, that's a lot. So it's great to see this initiative now in force. And I want to just say a word of thanks to Kevin and particularly Antia and his team for bringing this forward so quickly. And I welcome the fact that we're now seeing PR on our own social media channels and other places advertising this scheme. And I would encourage people who mightn't be aware of it to actually look into it. It's good and should be availed of. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Stephen. And now Councillor Irvine, please.
Sorry, hand down again.
No problem. Thank you. Councillor Feely, Anthony.
Thank you, Keirley. I'm not sure whether Siobhan's proposal was second there, but I'll probably second it if nobody else is with it here. Like Councillor Dayton, my nappy days are over as my children as all teenagers. But I think it would be a great idea because the disposable nappy or the sorry, whatever you call it, would be a good job. I can't see. I'm not going to say ladies or men going back to washing lines and nappies like they did in the old days. I know years ago there have been ladies, but nowadays men will be doing it too. I can't see it going to that. So I think that the other nappy would be a good job. So I'm glad, happy to propose second Councillor Curry's proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. And now Councillor McCloughery, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would have some serious issues with the use of these biodegradable nappies. I've read some papers on it that said they can take up to 50 years, and they also are a high methane outputter. It goes with the content of them and the length of time it takes them to biodegrade. So I would be quite cautious at this stage about recommending any product that we don't know a lot about, and I would seek perhaps. I think this would be maybe something that would be better referred back to the Climate Resilience Group, and they could investigate that and come back to the council, this committee at a later stage, because I would have serious concerns. It's something that takes 50 years to biodegrade, and also the high methane. That's what agriculture has been blamed for at the moment with greenhouse gases. And if we're recommending that we have our children produce greenhouse gases, are we going to do away with children as well as agriculture?
Yeah, thanks for that point, Councillor McCloughery. So we can refer that to that.
I suppose it would maybe be just to get Councillor O'Coffey's view, if he would be happy in the first instance to do that for some further work, following which then we could write to local supermarkets or others regarding the product.
Okay, I'll just bring you in. Councillor O'Coffey, your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy if there is a genuine concern, but my understanding is that if we incinerate these, I'm sure that the carbon footprint will be probably worse, if not more, than something that's produced by plants originally. So obviously we have to be concerned about methane because it is forcing of 3 powers in terms of 1,000 times more than carbon dioxide, it still decomposes in a 10-year period. So the whole thing will be quite complex, I suspect, but I'm happy to wait. It's no real rush, I'm sure.
That's great. Thanks very much. A seconder for that. A seconder for Councillor McCloughery, please. Maybe Councillor Curry, if you want to come in and talk, you might second that.
Diana, happy to second. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. And now Councillor Curry, please.
But it was really just to say I don't think we're going to stop babies excreting into nappies, so it doesn't really, I don't think we're decreasing the methane by looking at compostable nappies. A lot of these are going to landfill anyway, and they're still filled no matter what they're made out of.
Thank you. I think there's a few hands still up. And Councillor McCann, do you want back in?
Sorry, Chair.
No problem. Councillor Chris Smith, you looking in? I think Chris is actually gone there, maybe. He's another meeting. So, is Councillor Dayton, your hand's also still up? Do you back in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, Chair, my original proposal was that we should find out more about these biodegradable, compostable nappies. I think that, you know, it is true to say that we can't really recommend them until we know what their environmental impact will be. So that was really what my proposal was. I don't mind if that information, you know, what route that takes into the council, whether it's through the biodiversity group or to this committee. But I do think it's important we should have that information. You know, Councillor Feely may be quite right in what he says, that he can't see young women and men going back to you know, reusable nappies. But you know, I think we have to think about the environment, and I think that we do have to change our ideas and our day-to-day working practices. Councillor O'Coffey has highlighted the huge volume of nappies that are going to landfill, and it's simply not sustainable to go forward in this way. And you know, I think people will just have to rethink it. But certainly the compostable nappies might be an alternative to the housewife, the mother who hasn't time to wash nappies, or who doesn't wish to do that. So I think we should definitely get more information about it. So that was my original proposal, Chair. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much, Councillor Dayton. And now Councillor Wilson, please.
Yes, I would agree with Councillor McCloughy. And I do believe that before we do any or go down any line, we need the proof as to what's happening. And yes, they will be probably very handy, and quite a lot of young housewives, I'm sure, will be delighted to use them. Proof as to the benefits or not before we really say that they are a benefit. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Councillor Wilson. And I think that point is dealt with and all seconded, all agreement. Now, oh, sorry, Councillor Maguire, are you looking in?
Again, for clarification, is it not the case that we as a council are already advocating the use of these compostable, disposable nappies in light of what Councillor Corey already had said, the possibility of putting them into the bounty packs and that for new children, but seemingly then from the discussion we're nearly on a previous meeting we have it for the action of supporting the compostable, disposable nappies. Just so that we need to refer it back for a discussion when we as council already advocate the use. Perhaps you could clarify, Chair.
You get clarification on that, Kevin?
Chairman, I mean, there's a range of proposals here, or discussions with regards to different types of nappies, and certainly I'm not an expert on them, so I will defer to my staff to maybe go back and have a look at all the various options and just reaffirm to a future paper to members just of the benefits and advantages and disadvantages of the various types of nappies that can be used, and some idea on their lifespan and the time they take to decompose.
Thanks, Kevin. And Councillor McClure, are you looking back in?
Sorry, Chair, my big finger didn't turn off my hand.
No problem. And I see Councillor Wilson, your hand's still up. If you could take that down, please. Okay, that's that point. And then I know Councillor McAleer wants to speak on another point on page 11. You want to come in now?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I suppose just before we move off this, I think that there has been some very valid points raised in relation to this current item, and including what Councillor McCloughy has said there. But I think even considering that these biodegradable nappies take up to 50 years to decompose, that if existing disposable nappies take 150 to 500 years to decompose, I think it is a step in the right direction. So I am supportive of Dr. Dehan's motion and that we move to find out a wee bit more information, but I would also be happy to second Councillor O'Coffey's motion to communicate with local supermarkets to see what provision is being made currently or what provision is being planned in relation to that, because I'm aware that not only are these biodegradable nappies a bit harder to track down, they're also a bit more expensive. They're a lot more expensive than the standard.
Sorry, I'll just stop you there, Councillor McAleer. I think Councillor O'Coffey's proposal was withdrawn, so there's no way for a second or that, but your comments are noted. What was the other point you wanted to speak on?
Well, it's in relation to item 6.3 and just the Tullyvar treatment plant. There's a statement or a sentence, just the third point down on page 11, which caught my eye again reading through this, that the treatment plant at Tullyvar did not treat the leachate to discharge consent standard. So I'm wondering if this leachate hasn't been treated to discharge consent standard, how safe is it when it is actually being discharged? And sort of what is the volume and strength of the discharge or the leachate that is actually being discharged? I note in the report at the time, and again in the minutes that we have in front of us here, that there's a proposal to run leachate through reed beds on site, and there's no real mention of I suppose the further treatment works that could be available. So it was just something that concerned me, that if leachate is just being discharged without being treated, it seemed quite concerning. I just wanted to maybe ask if Kevin or if some of the members of that particular committee could advise on that. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, just for clarification, basically what that statement is saying is that the leachate that's generated within the landfill site is partially treated with the aeration system on the plant. It doesn't treat it to a standard that can be discharged to stream or river. So the partially treated, it is partially treated to bring down the ammonias and the various content within the leachate. It's brought down to a lower standard, and then it is taken to a treatment work for treatment. So there is no discharge of any. The leachate goes from there. Our treatment plant on the site aerates it to a standard, and then it goes off to treatment, a number of different treatment works for further refining. The issue on the site is we do actually partially treat small quantities of leachate on the site. We had 3 reed beds on the site. We've added an additional 4 larger reed beds, and they have just been recently commissioned. And the long-term expectation is that we will continue to use the aerator plant at the Tullyvar. It will bring down the standards and improve the leachate to a standard where ultimately we would hope to put a larger and larger volume up through the reed beds, that it will filter. It travels through the top reed beds, travels down through all 7 reed beds, and by the time it goes to discharge, it will be in a condition that it is suitable to discharge to stream. And we would hope with the development of the most recent 4 reed beds in the not too distant future, we will be in a position where nothing will have to be tankered off the site to sewage treatment works. And it is turned out to be an extremely successful way of processing and sorting and doing a closed loop with regards to the leachate and the site. I hope that clarifies the point for members.
Thanks for that, Kevin. And now Councillor Fitzgerald, come in, please. Are you there, Councillor Fitzgerald?
Hello, yes. Yes, I just want to declare an interest as being a member of Tullyvar Committee. Sorry, I should have done it earlier on, and to wish Kevin every success, to work with him in Tullyvar, and as my father did, and in the swamp, and as my father, the previous councillor, done, and he's been held in high regard as both my father, and he always spoke fondly of him. So all the best, Kevin. I should have said that earlier on. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Wilson, please. Councillor Wilson. Okay, and now Councillor Okay, no problem. Councillor O'Coffey, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if I could get a little bit further detail on the leachate, whether it contains heavy metals and how are they then treated? Because obviously one of the things you would anticipate as being a leachate from something like a waste ground is indeed heavy metal. So I'm wondering, is there any detail on how that's treated?
Kevin?
Have the exact details of the content. I know the ammonia levels and a number of other parameters with regards to what's in the leachate, but I can assure members that everything within that site, nothing is discharged that doesn't go through the appropriate site. One, as I say, it's partially treated through the aeration plant, and then the reduced leachate is then tankered to a treatment works for further treatment.
Thanks for that, Kevin. And now Councillor Rainey, please.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your elevation to the chair.
Thank you.
And I can tell you, you're really a real buzz kid at that. My apologies for joining the meeting perhaps a little late this afternoon, and good wishes have been made to Kevin O'Gara, and I want to be
Sorry,
part of that.
Councillor Rainey, we're actually doing that later on at any other business if you want to keep your comments to then.
Okay, then if that's when it's going to be, I can wait till it.
Yeah, that's when we're going to do all that. So that's great, Councillor Rainey. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to declare an interest as a member of Tullyvar Joint Committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coffey, your hand's still up. Are you looking in again, or is that a...
Yeah, I was just wondering, is that going to be then, we'll get a little report on whether there's any heavy metals in the leachate, because I believe landfill is one of the main sources of heavy metal leachate.
Chairman, I can certainly arrange for feedback from the manager of the site there to give an analysis of what goes out of that site. Yeah.
Okay, there's one more speaker. I'm mindful of time, and there's still loads to get through. If we could really keep the speaking to a minimum, we'll try and get through the business, because I know people would want to say their best wishes to Kevin, and that's coming up towards the end. So if we could try and get through. So Councillor Clark, if you want to come in.
Yeah, all I want to do is declare an interest.
No problem. Thank you. Councillor McClary, your hand's still up. Are you looking in? Okay, thank you. Okay, matters arising, we're on page 12, page 13, page 14.
Chair, page 14.
Yeah, go on ahead, Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to comment briefly on the Axville Pond, Axville Park there in Fintna. I want to welcome the 3 recommendations coming out of the last Environmental Services meeting, particularly around the third strand of that, which is the development of a strategy around the long-term look or the long-term vision of Axville Park. I believe, now I've spoken this in the past, but I believe that any key or the key to any development of the Axville Park and the pond should have the contribution of Fintna residents and local users, and I've asked in the past that a consultation exercise be carried out within that area, just to get the views and maybe the ideas of the locals who live there and those who use the park, and see what they might think the park might look like in the future. And I'm just wondering if Kevin can comment as to where that currently sits. Has that been progressed at any stage? I appreciate it mightn't have been with all that's going on, but maybe a comment on that. Just to say that, that the pond and the park there in Fintna are a big part of the local community, and they look forward to the day that it is revitalised and revamped, and as with all people who use that park. So, Sinead, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. Kevin?
Chairman, I know that there'd been some work done on it. I don't think it's at a particularly advanced stage, but certainly I'll undertake to ask for that to be beefed up and worked up and see what way it looks. I say there was some work done in the past on it, but we'll probably need to take it out, dust it off, and I think there's a lot of merit in trying to have a long-term strategy for what is a very unique facility within the district and the ownership of the council. So certainly I'll ask for that to be moved on.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kevin. Councillor Coffey, you looking in on this point?
Point 6.9 on page 14.
Yeah, go on ahead.
The letter of bin review, I take it that this is the point at which we bring up items 4.3 of matters arising, which is the replacement wheel bin policy, and in which case we
8.3.
It's a separate point. It's later on.
It's later on, is it? Okay, because it's on the matters arising. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair, it was just to clarify, it'll come up on page 17 under item 8.3.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. Councillor McAleer, are you looking in on?
Yeah, Chair, just to briefly support what Councillor McCann is saying there in terms of the Ecclesville Pond. I think there's great potential for the biodiversity and the development there, and I think it's a very exciting and a very worthwhile project, so I look forward to seeing that advanced. Just, I suppose it's the bottom of page 13, top of page 14, the, item 6.7. I was just looking to get a quick word on that. We seem to move quite quickly from page 13 to page 14 there, so maybe if there's any other speakers, I'll hold fire until they chat and I can come back to it. Or
I think you're right to proceed. Go on ahead there, Emerson.
perfect. It's just in relation to the proposal that I brought forward in terms of the sort of an amendment to that hire equipment that we were looking at. And specifically what I was looking for there was, as well as the portaloos and the disabled access portaloos, which have been noted on the report, was changing places provision. And I noticed that that's not specifically referred to within the minutes here. And I was wondering if that has been sort of a slip. I'm aware that the accuracy point may have passed, but given the fact that that was what we were getting to, and I know we'd spent quite a bit of time mentioning companies that deal with that or provide that service, I think it's a very important thing to have included. So I would hope that it's, if not able to be added to the minutes at this stage, that it's something that will be considered when we look back on the provision of disabled access portaloos. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, I'll just bring Alison in at this point.
Chair, I think the members just alluded to it there himself. This is the accurate record of the meeting as agreed, so it can't be introduced at this point. So what I would suggest, if Councillor McAleer has a specific proposal in relation to that, it should be made now. There is obviously a separate report on changing places and associated provision coming to policy and resources next week. So that would be the other option if the member would wish to wait until then.
Thanks for that, Alison. No, I would really like to have that included, and I'm very encouraged to hear that there is a report coming to the P&R committee. But I suppose what spurred me on was including that particular item in this point. So I would propose that whilst we're moving forward with the other recommendations, that we would be mindful to also include changing places provision within the content of that. So I would like to make that an official proposal at this point. Thank you.
Okay, could we get a seconder for that, please? If anybody wants to come in. Anybody want to second that?
Yes, that's okay. Bernice here. I'll second Emmett's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Bernice, and that's, I think we're all in agreement with that. Councillor Rainey, your hand's up. Are you looking to come in?
I was, Chair. It was to remind Kevin about the boundary fence between the golf course and the Ecclesville Park. Some work has been carried out by the golf course management group there, and they are concerned perhaps about the the weakness of the fence between the park and the golf club. And I want to remind Kevin before that he would step down to make sure that that there is kept on the agenda, that a resolution can be found.
Chairman, just I've actually passed that on and asked some of the staff to contact the golf club to have a discussion with them and to walk the boundary fence to see what options are available to try to deal with any issues. So I haven't had a feedback from them, but certainly I'll make sure that that they follow up on that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor. Councillor McCann, you looking in?
Thanks, Chair. Just very briefly again, further on to the comments then, so around the Exfield Park and indeed comments from our members, can I formally propose, Chair, that maybe we establish, maybe for the short to medium term, an Exfield Park Pond working group or focus group, just so we can come together and keep the focus on this piece of work. It's got huge potential for the area and a lot can be done there. And I think for just to come back into environmental services, you know, every so often just doesn't do it justice. So I propose the establishment of a Exfield Park Pond focused working group. I make that a formal proposal, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephen. Councillor Dayton, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's actually on 6.9. Page 15. So I'll defer if someone wants to second Councillor McCann's.
Yeah, I'll take a second for Councillor McCann's proposal before we move on to that.
Campbell? Happy to second that.
Okay, Councillor Rainey, second that. Okay, now move on to you, Josephine, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. No, it's just in relation to item 6.9 and the fourth recommendation, which agrees to review the provision of litter bins in rural areas with reducing the number to promote the leave no trace principle. Well, Chair, I just really wanted to say this, that, you know, I can see where this proposal is coming from. And in an ideal world, we wouldn't have any rural litter bins and people would be very diligent about bringing their litter home and not ejecting it from their car windows. But I have to say that I do have grave concerns about reducing the number of litter bins in rural areas.
Working group for Ecclesville.
You know, I think that we just need to be very careful, particularly in sort of picnic areas and other scenic areas. I know we have had grave problems with litter in scenic areas before, but I just want to say that I have grave reservations about removing litter bins. In my experience, people, if they come for picnics or if they have takeaways, if there's a litter bin there, providing it's not full, there's a better chance of them putting it in that litter bin. Otherwise, they're likely to just drop it at their feet. So I just wanted to express my concern regarding.
That's dead on.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Councillor Dayton. Now, Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to just support Councillor Rainey's comments with regard to the fence. I know Kevin's taken that on board. This is a matter that's also been raised with me by my members of the golf club in particular. But I think it's important that we keep the actions flowing on this one. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Earl. Councillor McAleer, are you looking in again on this?
No, just coming in support of what Councillor Dayton was saying there. I think we had discussed this at a previous meeting. We were keen maybe not to introduce bins to areas where there weren't in rural areas but reducing them I think maybe isn't a good idea. And just again on the same point in terms of the praise going into, I suppose, litter picking staff, both council and local communities. I suppose it's great to see football clubs and different community organisations coming together and doing all that, and it's extra disappointing then following these litter picks whenever passing traffic, I suppose, throw the litter back out and we start over again.
Absolutely, agree with you there. Councillor McCann, you're in next.
Thanks, Chair. Very briefly, just I think it was Councillor Dayton who seconded the proposal to establish this maybe time-limited working group. Can I suggest that the makeup of that group does include the 6 councillors from the West Tyrone DEA? I think we've all got a valuable input to make that. So just maybe that suggestion, Chair, and thanks for your patience there.
No problem. Councillor McCann. Councillor Curry, please.
Margaret Kearley, no, I don't want any rowing back on that item 4. The review of provision of litter bins in rural areas, and in particular it was aimed at countryside areas. I mean, you're either leave no trace or you aren't. I think it should be done with obviously where you've got picnic areas and things like that. That is different. But you know, there are litter bins, and we had a detailed report, and I'm very grateful to the officers who brought it forward. There are litter bins out in lay-bys and out in the countryside that are attracting other litter. People are leaving their litter behind and actually coming and fly tipping bags of waste around those bins, and it's dangerous for the environment, and it's dangerous for wildlife. Particularly, you know, birds and animals who might be, you know, attracted to them. And I think we did have a good report on it, and I'm not prepared to see that being rolled back at all. We should be reducing the number of litter bins in the countryside. Leave no trace is the message for Margaret.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Curry. Again, I'm very conscious we've less than an hour left, really, and we still haven't got through the matters arising. I suppose I could bring Alice. Do you want to come in and speak just for if anybody else?
Sorry, Chair, thank you. And well, then obviously maybe, Chair, I could come in even after matters arising if you wish. It was just on the practicalities for the rest of the meeting, but maybe you'd just like to conclude matters arising.
Yeah, okay, so Councillor Feely is next.
Thank you, Kearley, and I'll be brief because I know you're trying to get through business. Well, I'm kind of agreeing with Councillor Curry here, and I know there is whatever bins is left, and I was trying to get in the last time when you were talking about the dog fowl bins. Gavin, what you want to know being second time, fair play to you, doing a great job keeping this meeting going. But with the few bins we have, I was just wondering if the workers could go around and check them. For the few that around my area is very full, and as Councillor Curry says, there's people throwing bags beside them, which we're trying to get rid of. But they do an extra check on them and make sure they're empty when they're doing the same with the dog fouling bins, if it's at all possible. Okay, Gavin.
Great, Councillor Feely, thank you. And now Councillor Gannon is the last speaker in this, and then we're moving on. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that about the litter bins in rural areas, as Councillor Curry said, we've had long discussion on it before, and we had a detailed report, and Councillor Blake has brought up litter bins before as well, and we've had discussion on it multiple times. I think to kind of address the concerns raised by Councillor Dayton, I think any changes that would be made, and Kevin can come in and comment on this if he likes, could be done in a slow manner, as in test the site, take away a bin, test its impact. This is something that was done at Culca. Learned that through the Geopark committee. This is how they tackled bins in their area. They tested it, they tried different locations, and they noted the results. I think that would be a very intelligent way for us to test this in different areas, and to obviously promote leave no trace and get to that ideal in an effective manner. Thank you.
You want to come in there, Kevin?
Chair, I think there is merit in that. I mean, I'll give you an example. I walked last year, walked part of the Camino. I walked 160 kilometers. The one worst litter location I found was a solo bin sitting in the middle of nowhere, and it was just like a dumping ground. So I think that there's obviously, I don't mean, or I wouldn't expect that there would be a wholesale withdrawal, but I think that the strategy of looking at withdrawing some of the bins and monitoring the situation has a degree of merit. When the G8 conference was in Enniskillen here, on a security basis, all of the bins were taken out of the laybys, and staff noticed that where there was no litter and there was no litter bins. There was virtually no litter. So that was a few anecdotal examples of where lack of bins has actually helped to keep the environment clean. I certainly would strongly recommend that we push and develop the leave no trace. If you bring waste, take it home with you and leave no trace strategy. I think it's a good positive message for our environment. But certainly we won't be going at it like a bull. We will do it on a phased basis, and as member said, we will monitor the progress on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And I know I said I wasn't taking any more in on this, but two councillors have come in and they haven't really spoke tonight. So I'm going to, in fairness, I'll bring in Councillor Blake and then Councillor Green, and that's the end of this matter. So Councillor Blake first. You there, Paul?
Yeah, sorry, I was just getting the mic on. I was having a wee bit of trouble with it. No, I haven't really said too much tonight, but I know it was rather regarding that point. I know Siobhan made a very good point about leaving no trace. I just think in a lot of the areas, I'm speaking from experience, I was up in Big Dog Forest earlier today, Loch Formal walk, and going around there with the dog, and there was no bins at all for, like, we're being responsible owners in terms of collecting up after the dog, but there was nowhere then to dispose of the waste. Even where you park the car, there was nowhere like that. And it's in areas like that, which are just areas of people going for walks. It's not an area where you'd be encouraging fly tipping because you're a wee bit off the beaten track to be going up there. It's areas like that, and also seeing it too during the good weather down and around our jetties and things like that there, where I think no matter what you do, we've seen an incident where the PSNI put up on their Facebook page about the incident at Muckross Bay, that no matter what you do in terms of bins, and people will still try to leave it behind them anyway. But I think that even if those bins provided in certainly areas along the lake shore where people will be congregating during good weather, or areas of outstanding natural beauty, that you have something there that people can dispose of their dog waste anyway, at least. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Blake. And now the final word to Councillor Green, please.
Thanks very much, Gavin. No, there's just, I wanted to support what Councillor Curry said, and I was delighted to see that Councillor Gannon, I think, was supporting that to reduce the number of bins in the countryside. Anywhere I have seen them, and laybys close to me a number of years ago had bins in them. It just created litter problem. When they were removed, it removed the vast majority of the litter problem. And I'm a bit disturbed that Councillor Blake is still trying to promote adding bins to the countryside, because that is not the solution. So just my support for what Councillor Curry said.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Green. And now we'll move on with matters arising. We're going to get this finished now. Page 15, page 16, page 17, and there's a point, item 8.3. You need Kevin, you mute.
Apologies, Chairman. Just for clarification, there's a bit of concern with regards to the accuracy of the minute, and just for clarification, the minute in February, in the February meeting, clearly stated that any wheelie bin would be damaged or lost in the hoppers will be replaced at no cost to the public. And we sought to get legal opinion with regards to the issue from July 17, and I know Philip Kingston's on the line, but I think Philip's advice was basically if anyone felt that they had a basis for a claim, that they should put a note to the council, and the council would address that. I don't know if Philip's on, if he wants to make any comment on the issue.
I think I'll just bring in Alison first.
Chair, maybe just as Kevin has indicated, I think there may have been some confusion around this item when it came for ratification by the council. So in summary, the policy that Kevin has described has been amended, but was at the council's wish, reflective of the changes by members, but that was decided upon the month previously. So it was actually in the February Policy and Resources Committee, which was adopted at the March meeting. So what members were seeing at the March Environmental Services Committee was only a brief summary where Philip had been asked if the policy was now appropriately worded, and he confirmed it was. So it's really just to clarify that the detail of the policy decision is as recorded in the February minute of Environmental Services as opposed to the March minute. And I just think there may have been some confusion on the evening, Chair, that this summary was actually that of the policy itself, which is not the case.
Okay, that's great, Alison, thank you. Just a note, all the previous speakers' hands are still up. If you could lower them now, please. That's all matters arising dealt with. So do you want to come back in again, Alison, and speak? I think you're muted.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, happy to come in if there's no comments on that matter. Chair, it's just to say.
Sorry, is somebody looking in on that last point?
Yeah.
Is that Donal?
Yes, it is. I had my hand up there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but
okay, go on ahead very briefly, Donal.
Yeah, it's just in relation to this. Can I just clarify then that given that the original decision of the councillors remained in force, then the council does recognise that, because it's still a little bit uncertain to me, that we're encouraging people to put forward a claim if we charged them in the past for a bin against the decision of the councillors. Is it now the case then that anyone that was charged previously who had paid for a bin and they shouldn't have should therefore come forward with just to see if they can reclaim whatever they've paid on inappropriately?
Chair, I think the easiest way is perhaps just to summarise and firstly to confirm, councillors, that this, what I'm quoting from now, is the February committee meeting of Environmental Services. So recommended on the proposal of Councillor Green, seconded by Councillor Gannon, and by the majority of votes cast, that the Council agrees that a 1-year warranty be issued on the sale of new wheeled bins which fail within the first year be replaced, and the replacement wheeled bin policy be updated to state that wheeled bins verified by the Waste and Recycling Manager Supervisor as being damaged or lost into the hopper as a result of collection operation will be replaced by the Council at no charge to the occupier. In the case of a dispute, the final decision on whether a replacement bin will be issued free of charge will be at the discretion of the Head of Waste and Recycling. So that was your formal position as agreed in February, ratified by the Council meeting in March. So in terms, I understand, it was also discussed at that meeting, in the period from 2017, if any individual believed they had or should have had a refund and a claim, they would submit those and they would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis consistent with that. So I do think both the Council's policy position is clear and the proposed steps of action for individuals is clear as well, Chair. But it is the month before, not last month, that this was discussed. So that is your formal position.
Thanks for that, Alison. Councillor Clark, you looking in on this?
Chair, not on this. It was item 8.2. I'll let you finish this one first.
Okay, Councillor Green, you want to come in on this point we're on?
Yeah, thanks for Alison for clearing that up. I think that's leaves our position very clear. Anyone that thinks that they have a case, they can look to get their money refunded, but they obviously have to have a case that they think the council were liable for breaking their bin, and that it wasn't just wear and tear. So I'm happy enough with the explanation. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Seamus. Councillor Baird, on this point, is it?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just wondering if the two types of bins that we have, landfill and recycling, do we have any statistics of which of the two types of bins have been more susceptible to damage? I would hazard a guess that the landfill bins are more susceptible to damage because there's heavier materials put into them, whereas generally speaking, the recycling is a lighter material. But just wondering from a point of interest, if there was a discrepancy or a great differential between the type of bin that was ended up being damaged, that would be a contributing factor to the consideration. Can I have an answer, please?
Chairman, I suppose when the bins were originally the landfill stroke black green bin, they've been out there a lot longer, probably twice as long as the blue bins. So the sequence was the black bins were introduced probably nearly 34 or 35 years ago. The blue bins were introduced about 17 years ago, and then subsequent to that, over a period of time, brown bins were introduced. Obviously, the black bins are going to be the landfill bins are going to be the ones that are going to fail because of their age, and as well as that, in the initial period, all of those black bins would have been emptied every week, so they would have been emptied 52 times in the year. When the blue bins were introduced, then those black landfill bins would only be introduced, or the blue bins would be lifted 26 times a year. So you can, it's not hard to work out which is going to give you the highest figure for failure rates. Obviously, blue bin recycling is very light and tends to be plastics, cans, paper, cardboard, so it's very, very lightweight material, so not likely to cause damage. So due to age and your residual bin has traditionally taken all their heavy weight for a very long period before the introduction of the blue recycling bins and the brown food bins. So certainly they would have taken the lion's share of the workload over the years, and certainly would be more susceptible to failure.
Thank you for that, Kevin. But I would have thought that it still would have been possible to do a like-for-like comparison over the last 1 year, the last 2 years, the last 3 years, to see, or even the last 5 years, if the figures are available. I don't want to be given any more money or more work to be done, but it would be if it were easily achieved. I would ask it to be done, but because I think it would prove my point. But
Chairman, that shouldn't. I don't envisage that being an issue. I just don't have the facts, but we certainly can look into it and pull together a quick summary of what's been replaced due to failure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so seconder for that, please. If somebody come in and second that.
Chair. Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Thompson, yeah, you were next, and we've gone ahead.
Thank you for letting me in, Chair. I want to second Councillor Baird's proposal there, and thank Alison and Kevin for their explanations. And with regard to the February 2020 meeting, which is my clear recollection of it as well. And just with regard to the black bin, I just put it out for information there. I have my current black bin for the last 32 years. So thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much. Councillor O'Reilly now, please.
Thanks, Chair. Just two questions, Chair, just for the practicality, now that we're clear about the bin policy. If somebody has a legitimate claim there for a bin to be replaced, are those bins going to be delivered, or are constituents expected to go and find some way of having the bin brought home themselves? That's one question. And the second question, my understanding that during the closure of the recycling centres, and bearing in mind, Chair, that they are not all open again, that if people were running out of the green bags, that if they tied one onto their blue bin, that the people collecting, or operators collecting the bin, would leave a green bin. I think that was working some way and some places, but maybe not consistently over the place. Could I get some comment on those two, please?
Chair, on the delivery aspect, I suppose we would always, if possible, we would ask people if they could call and collect them if they don't have the ability then, and it had resulted as a failure in the council, we would arrange delivery. and that would cover that end of it. With regards to the bags, we did obviously, because the CA sites were closed, and normally the majority of people collect their food bags in CA sites, and as they were closed, we arranged to have a box of bags that both the entrances to the two depots for people could call into. But we put in place a temporary arrangement initially just to try to facilitate, and it was putting out the message there. If people tied as the member has said, tied the last bag or the second last bag onto the bin, that would alert them. And to the main, I think it has worked. I would say on occasions that they ran out of bags. So, but certainly we were trying to achieve that as best we could. I wouldn't say we got it right all the time, but certainly that was the effort was to try to facilitate and make that delivery of bags a little bit smoother and easier for the members of the public.
Cheers. Thank you, Kevin, Chair, for that. Is that something that while most people can get, I'm thinking of elderly people, or I'm thinking of people with a disability, that it isn't as easy to get to the recycling centre to be able to pick up a bag? Is that something for those people that we could still continue to do? And if that requires, Chair, a proposal, I'm happy to propose that we do look to be able to facilitate citizens in that way.
Chairman, rather than taking it as a proposal, I'm quite happy to ask the staff just to give me a review of how it's worked and if there's any issues, and bring us short. And on principle, I can't see a big problem with it, but certainly I would just like to refer to staff and what worked and what didn't work with that plan. But in principle, I think it shouldn't pose too many problems. It's a lot of it's down to it's where we have I suppose we were able to do it currently because we had a shadow vehicle, and obviously the shadow vehicle allowed us the capacity to carry boxes of bags with us. So I'd just like to check into the logistics if members would be happy enough, and we could bring back get a report brought back very, very quickly to members on it.
That's great, Kevin. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Thomas. And Councillor Kelly's next, Padraig.
I was just wondering, is there an update on the Gorton Play Park, Kevin? With all areas closed, it would seem an ideal time to get this work done.
I think Sean Clark was meant to going to be speaking of that. I'm just going to, Councillor Blake was probably, I'll bring you back in, Councillor Kelly, okay? Is Councillor Blake, you looking to speak on this other item?
Don't you?
Sorry, again, having trouble with the mic. No, it was only just a second, but Kevin said there was no need to second Councillor O'Reilly's proposal because I was contacted by a number of elderly people who very much appreciated the efforts that were made by the council staff to give them the bags for the food waste. So they very much appreciated it during that current period there. So it was just to second that, and if there's a report brought back, that'd be welcomed.
No problem, that's great. Okay, I'll bring you back in, Padraig, please.
Thanks, Gavin. No, I was just wondering, is there an update, and Kevin aware of anything?
Sorry, Chairman, I was off mic there for a second, so apologies, I didn't hear that the first time. Gorton Play Park, obviously, as you know, all our play parks are closed currently, and there's that's the current status of position. I know that there was actions been taken to review looking at drainage and looking at whatever works would need to be done to alleviate the runoff into the site. So those works are ongoing. I have to, and I know staff are aware that we would try and get that work done as soon as possible. And the proposal and the thinking was that we would try and get it done over the summer months, and work out a plan for ensuring that there would be no runoff into the site. So I know staff are working on it. I don't have an update just on it at this stage, but the Gorton Play Park is the same as all parks, closed at this stage until further notice, until it is deemed that it can be opened in a safe and appropriate manner.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin.
So, Councillor Clark, were you looking to speak on the same matter?
Yeah, well, I've been talking to Kevin since January about this, and obviously events have overtaken us. But you know, I suppose I'd like to see it as soon as possible reopened. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Gavin.
Councillor Baird, your hand's still up. Is you looking back in?
Apologies, Chair. I'm colourblind and I can't see whether it's up or down.
No problem at all. And finally, Councillor Feely, are you looking in?
Thanks, Cahaley. I know you're pushed on a bit briefly. No, I was going to second Councillor Riley there too, but there's no need. Just to say, in Aaron West has been very good. A lot of people got on to me, and anybody that I told to tie the bag onto the bin men did leave the extra bags off. But it might been a bit of an ease, for I was chatting to somebody from this stage, just chatting them in the skill on day, and they said that they done it and it wasn't left off. So maybe it's an issue up there, but no bother around Garrison or leaving them off, no bother. And thank them for doing it too. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Councillor Feely. I know there's still a few hands up. If they could let them down, if maybe they want to speak again. Is anybody looking to speak again? No. Okay, that's that dealt with. Now bring Alison in, please.
Well, Chair, thank you. Chair, really just briefly, as members will know, there's really two options. It's now 9:25, just after, so there's 35 minutes for the meeting to conclude. If you're satisfied, Chair, that all business will be concluded, and that would include confidential matters, then you would have the discretion of an extra half hour. I think based on our progress this evening, that's probably unlikely. So as such, Chair, the report that we do need your approval for, a course of action, is in confidential business, which would be the MDR report and the associated contractual matters. Now, it's obviously a matter for you, Chair, how you'd wish to proceed. But that would just be a suggestion. I'm not sure whether members have any views on that.
I'll just bring in Councillor Garrity there.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alison. And yes, and although the meetings take quite a while, these are our bread and butter issues, what I've told you in the past, and they often will do that. And it's great that everyone has this opportunity there. But I think that would be a wise idea. It's obviously up to the members, but if that needed a formal proposal, Garvin, Chair, I would happily do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And I'll bring Stephen in. Stephen McCann, please.
Chair, yes, happy to second that. It's important to get key time urgent business done. But I want to just put on record my concerns again, Chair, and I raised this at the last council meeting that was done in WebEx, about this meeting now likely will be required to be reconvened. And there's a trend developing here where meetings are running to 2, maybe 3 days. And I don't know how this is going to play out in the long term. So just to put that on record, Chair.
Thanks for that, Councillor McCann. I think Councillor Robinson, are you looking in?
Okay, I was going to second it. It was already done.
Thank you. So I think that is the way we will proceed. So need a proposer and seconder to go into committee. Is that correct? Sorry, who's that? Sorry.
Councillor Thompson here, I have my hand up.
Sorry, go on ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Right, I'm happy enough to move to part 2, but the only thing I have to say is with regard to 5.3, and I think that's maybe, if we could have maybe a short discussion on 5.3 to do with the phased reopening of the recycling centres, because this is very, very important to our constituents out there. And it's one of the things that's raised several times a day.
I totally agree with you, Councillor Thompson. I think it's and likewise myself, it's one of them issues that's hit everybody, but I really don't think we have the time, and again it'll be probably in the reconvened meeting now, so I think we will proceed to part 2. So if everybody is happy enough with that, we will proceed to part 2, confidential matters.
Sorry, Chair, just
go on ahead, Councillor Michael here.
I have my hand up there too. Sorry, just it's in relation to Councillor McCann's comments, and I can